So we just got back from 2 amazing weeks traveling in Bali, a little bit into Lombok because we went to the Gili Islands as well. And it was honestly, it's the coolest travel experience, the coolest trip adventure exploring that we've done in a really, really long time. Kind of got our juices flowing in a new way. But rather than cost of living videos that I've done in the past when we went nomadic around the world, I wanted to do a cost of travel video this time based on how much did we spend for the 2 weeks that we spent during our travel. So in the past, like for our New Zealand Reveal NZ series, we pulled together like a trailer in advance showing you like all of the cool stuff, like what to expect in the series. But I thought this one kind of ticks 2 boxes. It shows you, 1, the cost of travel, which is really fascinating to see how much we spent, and 2, watching it back, you can get a feel for like what we got up to, what's to come in these 8 or 9 vlogs, and kind of get a feel for like what is the series going to look like. Anyway, so stick around and I'm going to be digging into 9 categories. These are the 9 categories that I tracked for absolutely every single cent that we spent while we traveled. Couple of quick things before I dig into it. These prices are for 2 people total, so obviously some of those costs you could pull back on things like, you know, alcohol and food, but others, some of them you can't if it's like renting of a whole vehicle for a transport or whatever it is. Ferry tickets and stuff, obviously you can kind of halve out. Yeah, as I mentioned, those links from previous cost of living videos from around the world, I'll leave them below because they're quite fascinating as well. But also below I'll put the links to some of our accommodation, our transport, and some of the activities and stuff. So if you're kind of researching, they're all down there. I've got a few other points to talk about at the end. I'm trying to talk quickly to just basically get to the bulk of this video, which is the numbers. So just to remind you, these are the 9 categories. If you're the kind of person that needs to hear the punchline before the joke, have a look at the bottom. I've timestamped everything. You can just jump ahead and have a look at the final numbers, but it's kind of important to understand how did we travel, where you could have saved money, and I'm going to talk about some of that stuff as well. What were the bougie bits? What were the bits that were kind of unnecessary? Where did we go, you know, spend a lot? Where did we not spend a lot? And sort of pull that all together individually. So I'll start off with the most expensive thing, which I think is fairly standard, and that is accommodation. So over the 2 weeks, we had $1,864 worth of accommodation, and we really mixed things up. On the cheap end, we found an amazing guest house that was mostly brand new in Ubud, and that was only, I think, 41 New Zealand dollars, and I was in shock. $41 a night. I mean, that front bit is kind of weird, but I think it's all the family, and this is sort of the property at the back that they've put this on for guests. In Canggu, rather than stay in like a low-key guest house, which they're pretty budge, we went back and hung out with our friends at Vasani Stay, which is a place that we recommend to everybody and sent lots of people to. It's in a really good spot in Canggu. It is a little bit more premium, but it's not out there in terms of costs at about $150, $170 a night, depending on the room that you get. And then when we were in Gili Air, for example, we stayed in an incredible place called Amalura, and this was a 1-bedroom pool villa, full privacy, small pool, but like having your own space there. It was really, really special. So it is the kind of place that I think this is the first category, because it's the most expensive as well, where there's a real opportunity to save money. If you want to stay in one of those guest houses and spend, you know, 20 to 40 New Zealand dollars a night, you really can do that and like really cut back. But the thing is, having good Wi-Fi is a nice bonus, having a nice swimming pool, yeah, good air conditioning, nice sheets. You know, if you go on the low end, you're kind of skimping on a lot of those things. So we kind of went middle of the road, but we really wanted to mix it up and show some of the more luxurious stuff, and then find some of those bargains as well, like 41 bucks for the swimming pool. So, you know, 1,800 bucks. I don't think that really shocked us because of the way that we chose to travel. So food was our next largest category at $637, and this shocked us in a good way, because I should mention that, well, this doesn't include booze, which is another consideration I'll go into. It does include what we would say 3 different blowouts where we went really, really fancy. But essentially in Bali, there's 2 different options. You've got the local warongs, which are like super cheap. The first day we go to a spot and it was 10 New Zealand dollars, and we got a big beer, full plate of food each. It's just unreal value. But then the cafe scene being the second option it probably blew us away even more. It is cranking more now than it was pre-COVID, despite the fact that everybody was not visiting. They just kept building. There are so many new restaurants, new cafes, new places to go and explore. An average meal at one of those cafes comes out to like $6 to $8 or something like that. Whereas, you know, you can have that whole meal plus a beer and extras and take home food for that price if you go to a warung. So yeah, but the cafe scene, yeah, unreal. I mean, we had everything from like smoothie bowls, there's like great donut shops, fish tacos on the beach were outrageously good. There's a new pizza joint, and then yeah, one of the blowouts that we had was some legit sushi at like a really overpriced hotel, but you know, we were just kind of testing the market, so to speak, with a sea view, and that was, you know, that was an expensive meal. Loads of coffee, which is included in this cost. There's some, and it's just great. The quality all round is actually pretty exceptional. So $637, just over $300 per person, or maybe more like $400 for me, $300 for Stace. But yeah, you could crank that right down if you only eat at local joints, but that's kind of why people go to Bali. It's why we like it, that we will have a fancy or a nice lunch out and then just go easy for dinner, or vice versa. You've just got so many good options. So transportation was next, and if you only stay in one place, which we don't recommend, but understandable, you barely will need transport. You can just use Gojek, or you know, grab a taxi or use Grab to get around. But we rented scooters, which is included in this. This includes some petrol costs. There was a few transfers that we had, specifically around going out to the Gili Islands, that we just pre-arranged transfers, getting picked up from the airport, which is vital there as well, because that is a real hustle system otherwise, as well as some tips in there too. There's some parking fees and stuff, but we're talking like 20 cents to park. It's not like any of that is really expensive. I mean, even the guy that collected us from the airport, it cost us $15, and he told us he was only getting $10 of that because of the company. I just gave him a $5 tip, which is, yeah, 50,000 rupiah, and he almost crashed the car. He was looking back at us with like that much excitement, and and he was a great guy, like so friendly. We hired him again for another trip, and you'll see that in the vlogs. Did get ripped off a couple of times on some petrol, I'll be honest about that. For a litre of gas, it should only cost about 20,000 tops. We used to pay 8 to 10,000, but it seems like gas prices have impacted everybody around the world, and so a lady kind of ripped me there a little bit, and I'd made sure to include that in here. At the cafes, there's often somebody that, because tourists park the scooters like shit, come off and like super casual, like, yeah, I'm a scooter guy. There's a bit of a vibe like that. And so often the bigger cafes will have somebody, and his job is just to basically like shift around the scooters, keep everything tidy. He'll have a flag, and he'll like flag down traffic when you go to leave. And there's no real tipping culture as such, but you know, we just give them 5,000 or it's like 50 cents, which is nothing, and their eyes light up, like they're just stoked to be recognized. So $447, not too bad. We definitely overpaid for a couple of our transfers. They're a lot cheaper if you do them in person rather than online like we did. But that's not a huge amount of money, and to have a scooter, we had freedom most of the places we were, so yeah, not bad with that. So I tracked alcohol separate to food because I realized not everybody drinks. We spent $361. We drank daily, including a couple of blowouts here and there as well. Come on, give me some lining.
It's scary.
Come on. Yes!
Nah.
Typical price for bintang is around 30,000, but if you go out to a restaurant, it can be 50 or 60, and that sometimes even adds some sales tax on top of that as well. So not expensive to drink. So you could even reduce some of these costs if you just kept to the more local spots or bought the beers yourself. Cocktails is anywhere from like $6 to $10. There's a lot of two for one, party kind of stuff going on. Yeah, we kind of avoided some of that, but we definitely did the sunset thing. So yeah, that's not too much, but you could strip that down a lot. Activities, $104 is all that we spent. This is a category that perhaps we saved more than what most people would, because we're quite self-sufficient and we know Bali very well. And that's because we basically drove everywhere that we needed to. This did include some like entrance. Oh no, sorry, it doesn't include entrance fees. I should stress that's a different category. The biggest cost of that was it was $80 to do a private tour, a snorkel tour in the Gili Islands, where we could leave at our own time. We had our own personal guide. He was hunting out the turtles for us, and it was the most beautiful coral turtle experience, underwater snorkeling situation we've ever been to. It could have been cheaper to just join another boat, but we wanted the privacy. And other than that, we didn't really do or pay for any other like big excursions. We were very much more like jump on the scoots, drive to the place ourselves, check it out and pay an entrance fee kind of thing. Visas were $103. You can't avoid having a visa for most nationalities, but a VOA, a visa on arrival, is otherwise what you need, and that's 30 days allowance. They've simplified it now to basically just that one option. Sorry, that's Nalu barking. But it's me. All good. But I recommend that you do it online, because once you get to the arrival hall, here we go. Say hello. Hello, everybody. What was I saying? Yeah, once you get to the arrival hall, it can be very, very busy there, and there are two different aisles. You have to go to the visa on arrival, and sometimes there's FPOS machines. You have to go and you pay right there and then. That line crams up, and then there's the typical kind of immigration. So do it online, save yourself the time and the hassle, and know that you're sorted before you arrive in the country. Entrance fees is another one. That was $60. It's not uncommon to get stung with a fee, and to use the Uluwatu temple as an example, there's like a fee just to get in, you know, on the scooter, which I suppose is kind of the parking fee, and then an entrance fee to go into the temple. Or up the road a little bit further, there's a private location that they charge. It was a nominal fee. It's like $5,000 per person, and that's just to get views out on this kind of lookout. And that was somewhere they could sort of fly the drone a little bit more, because you can't fly in those sort of areas. Just little things like that. But the biggest cost that made up the bulk of this was the entrance fees into Sunday's Beach Club. If you're a beach club connoisseur, you would know. Often what they do is they have a set price. It's like $40 or whatever to get in, but you know, like 25 of that goes towards your food and drink. So you kind of come out okay, but I've pulled out the $400K of that, the $40 of that, which was actually just purely based on entrance fees alone. I'm stoked to say that health was our 8th largest category. I don't want to see that any higher, to be honest. So $31, that was all gravy. You don't want to be spending anything more for any kind of accidents or injuries, and that was purely for a haircut. Some masks that we had to buy before we went into a random mall in Seminyak, because they were enforcing mask rules, which is strange, and some sunscreen, little bits and pieces like that, which is no cheaper there, by the way. Kind of thought that would be cheaper, but sunscreen is like outrageously pricey everywhere. It could have been a lot higher, you know, for things like this ring that's hanging out my nose. I didn't track those. Those were sort of more elective. This one could almost be eliminated from most holidays, to be fair. You probably don't need a lot of that stuff. We're just a little bit more prepared than we were. And the 9th category was phones at 30 New Zealand dollars. Bali is super weird in the sense that sometimes you're so much it's cheaper to do things online, and other times it's cheaper to do them in person. Transport is cheaper to do in person, except for airport pickups. Phone plans is a thing that blew my mind. So we paid 15 New Zealand dollars for our phone plan, which was for 25 gigabytes of data. We were in the exact same line as the other people that were queuing up to pay on the spot. They hadn't pre-planned anything through Telkomsel. And they were paying 40 New Zealand dollars, 400,000 for the exact same thing, purely because we had done it online in advance. We were saving that much money. So it's pretty outrageous when you break it down like that. So to summarize, $3,638. Obviously no flights included, but that's basically end to end, everything else for 2 people to travel for 2 weeks. What's crazy for us is you compare those prices to what we used to spend for when we were like, you know, we'd stay there for a month or 2 months, and proportionately a holiday like this is always higher. And that's because we ate out, you know, every single meal instead of going to grocery stores and, you know, drinking cheaper and, you know, having our own bike and never needing transport. Accommodation was cheaper because we had it for longer term. But even still, I mean, it was an epic 2 weeks for that price. And like I say, we could have done it cheaper had we stripped back on alcohol, maybe ordered some transport on the ground, didn't have as many blowouts with food, and maybe toned down some of the accommodation options a little bit. But it's pretty cheap. We were pretty happy with that. What do you reckon? Is that kind of where you were thinking, or you thought it was going to be higher or lower? And I think people get confused. What are you talking about? People get confused sometimes about how expensive or how cheap Bali actually is. So just to wrap up a couple of those kind of tidbits I wanted to add in there. We've worked with these guys as a sponsor before. They're not a sponsor now, but that's why we worked with them. It's with Wise, used to be called TransferWise. Easily the best option for your card. We used our kind of green Wise card everywhere. We were transferring like, you know, 500 New Zealand dollars at a time and spending about 2 New Zealand dollars to transfer it. That's it. That's the conversion fee, and it's the market rate. If you go into a bank with 500 New Zealand dollars and say that you want Indonesian rupiah, you're going to lose 40 bucks, 50 bucks maybe. It's unbelievable. Most people have a card now, and there's ATMs everywhere to get cash. So That is the ticket, sales pitch, affiliate link below. Do what you feel need to. Also below is all of those links that I mentioned from earlier. Check those out. There's not enough time to add all of these other tips that I've got, but what I'm thinking about doing is pulling together a kind of like a 10 things to know before you visit Bali sort of thing. And I'll make that and I'll put it at the end of this sort of vlog series. We never say this, but like, subscribe, share.
Welcome to my vlogs, Danger and Stacey. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Yeah, share and comment. Yeah, so that's
What else can you do? Comment, let us know your thoughts below. Engagement obviously helps us. And if this video has been helpful, feel free to buy us a coffee or a pizza. There's a link below for that as well if you kind of want to support us, or join the Patreon crew, and thanks to them because they help us take trips like this, of course, along with our sponsors. Yeah, and we're always available then, even more so, to answer your questions and help with your own trip if that's what you're looking for. And I look forward to sharing these videos because they are unreal, like so much fun.